I saw the moment the universe finally made sense to them. It wasn't during the grand ceremony with the floating lights and the diplomatic speeches. No, it was in the airlock of Deck 9, with the sirens screaming like wounded animals and the smell of ozone thick enough to choke on. Caleb had Alara pinned against the bulkhead, not in anger, but to shield her from the tremors shaking Bastion Station apart. I remember the way she looked at him. Her pristine white gloves were stained with coolant, and her hair was a mess of static and sweat, but she wasn't looking at the destruction outside the viewport. She was looking at him. Her hand came up trembling and pressed against the exposed skin of his neck where his collar had been torn away. She wasn't touching a political liability anymore. She was touching a man who had just ripped a blast door off its hinges with his bare hands. I heard her whisper, barely audible over the klaxons, "Who are you?" And Caleb. Truth is, I've never seen a man look so terrified and so resolved at the same time. He leaned his forehead against hers, his eyes burning with that terrible, beautiful bioluminescence of the Wraith augmentation. "Your husband," he rasped, his voice sounding like gravel grinding over glass. "But to understand the heat of that fire, you have to feel the cold that came before it. You have to go back to the beginning. Look, everyone on the station knew the deal. Princess Alara Vane was a royalty, tall, elegant, bred for diplomacy and high art. Caleb Thorne? He was the tax, the human contribution to the Alliance Treaty. A statistic. I used to watch them in the royal suite those first few weeks. It was painful. She treated him like furniture. Polite, sure, but distant. I remember one evening about a week before the attack, Alara was staring out at the nebula, sipping some expensive nectar wine, and Caleb walked in. He moved so quietly for a big guy, trying to be unobtrusive. He tried to ask her about her day, just a simple gesture to bridge the gap. She didn't even turn around. She just sighed, a soft sound of irritation that cut deeper than a knife. "Please, Caleb, I require solitude to think." The way his shoulders slumped, he looked like he wanted to disappear. He just nodded and left the room. She thought she had married a paper pusher from a second-rate species. She had no idea she was sleeping next to a warhead. Then the xenophage hit. I was on the bridge monitoring comms when the first hull breach alarm triggered. It wasn't a raid, it was a swarm. Absolute chaos. Protocol dictated we get the VIPs to the panic room. But the xenophage don't care about protocols. They breached the corridor outside the royal suite in minutes. I pulled up the internal security feed, expecting to see a massacre, expecting to see Caleb dead and Alara screaming. Instead, I saw something impossible. The blast doors were buckling under the assault. 3 xenophage warriors, 8 feet of chitin and razor claws, scrambled into the hallway. Alara stumbled back, tripping over her heavy gown, freezing in that way civilians do when death comes knocking. That's when the illusion shattered. Caleb didn't run. He didn't hide. He stepped between her and the monsters, and the air around him seemed to warp. I saw it myself. His skin flushed with a sudden, violent heat, veins glowing a neon blue under the surface. He moved faster than humanly possible. He caught a descending claw with one hand, actually caught it, and the sound of snapping bone echoed through the audio feed. He didn't just fight them. He dismantled them. It was efficient, brutal, a silent dance of violence. When the last alien dropped, twitching on the deck, he turned back to her. He wasn't the quiet husband anymore. The cloak was off. He was breathing hard, the hum of his internal augments audible even over the feed. He reached out a hand to help her up, and for the first time, she didn't look past him. She looked at the blood on his hands, then up to his glowing eyes. Look, that hallway fight was just the spark. The fire came later. After the adrenaline faded, things should have gotten awkward, but they didn't. We were running on borrowed time, and Caleb, he took command. It wasn't a request, it was gravity. He led us to the central engineering deck. I remember watching him interface with the station's core. He didn't use a keyboard. He placed those scarred hands directly onto the data glass, and the systems just yielded. He woke up the Wraith Division protocols. It wasn't a distress signal. It was a taunt, a digital scream designed to draw every single xenophage ship to our coordinates. I saw Alara standing behind him. She wasn't trembling anymore. She was watching the tactical map turn red as the enemy fleet swarmed us. She realized what he was doing. He was turning Bastion Station into a tomb, and us along with it. "You're overloading the core," she said. It wasn't an accusation. It was a statement of fact. He didn't look back. "It's the only way to catch them all. We have 3 minutes to reach the pods." That dash to the escape bay? I still dream about it. The floor was tilting 40 degrees. The air was burning hot, smelling of melting circuits and ozone. We were scrambling, sliding, helping each other up. And I saw her grab his arm, not for balance but for reassurance. He was the anchor. We made it to the pods with seconds to spare. I scrambled into the one on the left. They took the center one together. I watched through the reinforced glass as the hatch sealed them in. Caleb strapped her in first. He was so gentle, his hands moving with precise military grace, checking the seals, checking her vitals. He looked at her like she was the only thing in the galaxy that mattered. Then he hit the launch release. The G-force hit me like a physical blow. We were punched out into the black just as the station went critical. Truth is, words fail to describe that explosion. It wasn't just fire. It was a miniature star being born and dying in a heartbeat, a blinding silent white that swallowed the xenophage fleet whole. The shockwave tossed our pods like toys. I remember spinning, watching the debris field glitter like diamonds against the void. When the recovery cruiser finally scooped us up hours later, the silence in the medbay was absolute. But it wasn't empty. I walked past the recovery suite. The door was open a crack. They were sitting on the edge of the biobed. No grandeur, no royal protocols, just 2 survivors. Caleb was looking at his hands. The glow in his veins had dimmed to a soft pulse. He looked exhausted, expecting the censure, expecting to be locked away for hiding what he was. Ilaria didn't say a word. She took those dangerous hands in hers. She traced the lines of the augmentation ports on his wrists. She lifted his knuckles to her lips and kissed them. I heard her whisper, "The council will want to court-martial you for the deception." Caleb finally looked up. "I know." She shook her head, and for the first time, I saw a smile that wasn't practiced for the cameras. It was real. It was fierce. "Let them try," she said. "They'll have to go through me first." That was the moment the Eloria Human Alliance really started. Not with ink on paper, but with a princess holding the hand of a monster and deciding she liked the view. I walked away then. I figured they didn't need a witness for the rest.